Tonight's attendance is 326. I would now like to introduce our speaker for tonight, Frank J. from Sherman Oaks, California.
I'm Frank Jones. I'm an alcoholic. Wow. I know that AA works, and it works very slowly, but goddamn, Mike, after 15 years, you had to be able to afford shoes. I asked 5 or 6 guys not to come up with me because I'm afraid. I asked 5 or 6 guys to wait down here after my talk so I don't get beat up, okay? And all of them said no. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to thank Mike and the folks involved here for asking me to come up and participate. It's always a lot of fun to come up to San Jose and speak, and I know a lot of people up here, so I have a good time. And AA, folks in AA don't listen, okay? They don't. Half this group sitting out here, you don't listen. They read it in the preamble. Please don't join in the readings. And half the people in here all joined in. God couldn't what if he ever saw it. And you all join. Turn your cell phones off, because I know one's going to ring in about 5 minutes. You don't listen, so it's okay. I come up here, I want everybody to like me. It's never worked yet. San Jose absolutely brings out the worst in me. I'm going to tell you that right now. I got to tell you that I try to apply the 12 steps in my life to the best of my ability, and I'm still having a problem with the second step. Come to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity, and I'll tell you why. I'll be 64-year-old here next week. I got a little over 27 years sober. I put together a half pipe for my 10-year-old stepson. And I watched these 10, 11-year-old kids do this stuff. I said, I can do that. I'd never been on a skateboard in my life, so I got up on the top shelf, went down on the board, and I fell. I hurt myself. I got up after about 5 minutes and said, I know what the problem was. I didn't lean forward enough when the board went down. So I got up there again and did it again. 3 hours later, I'm in the emergency room. I lacerated my kidney, my bladder, and I have a hairline fracture in my hip. That was 2 weeks ago. You got to go for life. Don't sit there and act astonished. You only live life once. Try everything. I looked at the half pipe yesterday again, and I thought, I still think I can do this. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expect something different to happen. I still have a hard time with that step. I will get back on that half pipe, though, I guarantee it. But I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love the life it's afforded me, and if Alcoholics Anonymous didn't work, I wouldn't be here today. And when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm not unlike any other newcomer that comes in. I sit in the back. I didn't pay attention. I just wanted to look cool. I wanted to act cool. I wanted everybody to look at me. I wanted attention. I didn't listen to chapter 5 being read. I didn't listen to the 12 traditions. I really didn't care. And I'm glad I stuck around Alcoholics Anonymous long enough to find out some things. And what I found out by being here and listening to the old timers and my sponsor was that if I applied Alcoholics Anonymous in my life and I put Alcoholics Anonymous first, it'd quiet my head and calm my stomach, and I could live outside these rooms relatively comfortable. And I started getting involved in AA, so I'm glad I stuck around to find that out, and that I had to have some respect for Alcoholics Anonymous. I have no reason for being an alcoholic. I mean, I don't look like an alcoholic. I mean, look at me. I don't look like an alcoholic. I come from great parents. My parents didn't abuse me. They didn't beat me up. They didn't chain me to a bed, put me in a closet. They didn't do any of that. I had great parents. They weren't alcoholic. I was born in Danville, Illinois, and I had a great childhood growing up. I did everything kids like doing when they're growing up back in the Midwest. Playing Little League Baseball and Pony League and football and basketball and running track, and I won 9 varsity letters in high school, and I had offers to go to college and play basketball. And that's not why I'm an alcoholic. I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I did that inventory, read it to my sponsor and talked about my defects of character and shortcomings, and I found out some things about me I didn't analyze growing up. I don't think about my childhood, it ain't a big deal. I'm not looking for my inner child. I'm not going to get a teddy bear and put it in a backpack or on my keychain. If I ever find my inner child, I'll choke him out. That's what's going to happen. My inner child said, get on the skateboard, you can do it, you can drop in. So me and my inner child, we do battle. But I found out growing up when I did that I grew up being a liar and a cheat and a thief, and my parents never taught me to do that. I picked it up naturally before I ever drank. I lied because it's easier to lie than it is to tell the truth. When you're a liar, you can be anything you want to be. Most of you know that. I've been an airline pilot. I've been a cross-country truck driver. I've been a gold miner. I've been a dentist, and I've been a gynecologist. So when you tell the truth this there, and when you lie, you can be and do anything, and I did. I cheated because I never wanted to work hard and earn anything. I'm lazy. I'm self-obsessed. I don't want to do, give me, lend me, can I have, let me borrow. Give to me, do for me. I stole all the time because it's easier to steal than it is to stand in line and pay for something. When you leave the store, you got your money and the item, you're a double winner. I'd steal today if I didn't have to make amends. And that's the way I was growing up. I wanted to be a macho guy growing up. I wanted to be tough. I used to wear glasses, and I was tall and skinny. I was afraid of the dark. I was ashamed of that. I know you dudes up here in San Jose ain't afraid of the dark, but I was. And I felt like a wimp and a wussy, and I hated that feeling. And that's not why I'm an alcoholic. I went to a party one night in Danville. All the guys from the ball team were there, and my girlfriend, and all these guys had their girlfriends. And my girlfriend brought me over this big iced tea glass full of slow gin with 7-Up in it. I didn't know what slow gin was, never heard of it. But it was red, and it had ice in it, and I took a little sip of it. It tasted like strawberry Kool-Aid. That was my drink of choice. I chugged like that glass of slow gin and 7-Up down, and nothing happened. It wasn't a big deal. I asked her, go get me another one. She did. She brought another one, and I chugged that down. Nothing happened. I didn't put on a wrinkled trench coat, throw a bottle of wine in a paper bag, and shoot to Skid Row. I didn't ask my high school counselors, hey, how do you become an alcoholic? I want to be in San Jose some night. I wasn't drinking for the taste or the effect or what alcohol was doing to me or for me or any of that. I was drinking that night for one reason and one reason only. All the guys at that party were drinking, and I wanted to fit in with the guys at the party. I wanted to be one of the guys. I wanted to be part of the gang, the clique, the fraternity. I wanted to be part of that brotherhood, and that's why I drank, because maybe I could do what they were doing, because I'm not dancing. They are. They're hugging and munching their girlfriend in the corner. I can't do that. I'm up there with my arms crossed, foot on the wall. I don't want to ask you to dance because I don't know how, and I don't want you to make fun of me. I don't want to talk to you. You'll think I'm stupid. And I thought if I drank like those guys drank, I could do what those guys are doing. And I drank almost a gallon of slow gin in about 30 minutes, glass after glass. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. It's no big deal. 20 minutes after I drank that last glass, I found out where slow gin got its name. I went into a blackout. I got taken home that night. I passed out, and the next morning I come to, and I'm puking up everything I'd eat and drink at the party that night. I'm sicker than a dog. My head's pounding. My stomach's upset, and I can't remember how I got home. I didn't know what a blackout was back then. I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and the old-timers in my home group snapped me up and told me what a blackout was for me. They told me, Frank, that's when you go out and drink, you'll do whatever it is you're going to do that night, and the next morning you will have amnesia about all or parts of that night. That's an indication you have a problem drinking. So from the first time I drank, I had a problem. I didn't know it. I missed 3 days of school with a terrible hangover. I went back to school and the guys told me about that night. They told me I was dancing, laughing, funny, and some guy said something. I punched his ticket, and when those guys told me about that night, what I felt was a part of those guys. I don't remember any of it, but I felt a part of those guys. I evidently had a great time, and I didn't remember it. The other thing I got out of that night to tonight, I don't drink 7-Up anymore. 7-Up causes you to forget things, you puke stuff up. 7-Up ain't good for you. This is the only disease in the world that will kill you, and your head will always blame something else. And that night, I blamed the 7-Up. I didn't turn into a blazing alcoholic after that and get the shakes in study hall when I didn't drink. I drank when I could get it. When I drank, I got drunk. When I got drunk, I got in fights because I'm full of fear. I didn't know that back then. And then to keep you away from me, I was a fighter, and I started getting in trouble in high school. And about 2 weeks before I'm supposed to graduate, I have this scholarship to go play basketball at this university, but now I have a committee that talks to me and gives me advice. And my head is talking to me, and this is what my head says. What if you go to that college, Frank, and you don't make the basketball team? You're going to look bad. I don't want to look bad. What if you go to that college and you make the team, but you don't get grades good enough to stay on the team? Those things fill me with fear, and I didn't know it was fear at the time. And so I made a keen alcoholic decision. I quit high school. Made sense to me at the time. You can't go to college on a scholarship if you don't graduate from high school. So I quit high school. 2 weeks later, I'm drinking with the guys. We're having a big time. I'm feeling macho. And I made another keen alcoholic decision. I joined the Marine Corps. If you're a wimp and a wussy and afraid of the dark, don't go in the Marine Corps. You need to join the Navy. Or you could go in the Army. And I found myself on a train going up to Chicago to get sworn in. I'm full of fear and I'm homesick and I'm lonely and the wheels of the train ain't moved yet. I'm sitting next to a guy in a black leather jacket with a ducktail haircut, long sideburns. He's got zippers and doodads on his leather jacket. He's a macho guy. I want to hang out with him in Chicago. I'm full of fear. He's drinking out of a little brown bottle. He asked me if I want some of it, and I said, yeah. And I took that bottle, I chug-a-lug 3 or 4 big mouthfuls of it. It was whiskey. I don't know how you drink whiskey at the age of 17. I sprayed that crap all over the seats in front of me. I had whiskey coming out my nose, my eyes are watering, I can't breathe. This guy's looking at me funny. I felt like a wimp. I hated that feeling. I wiped off my face, I handed him that bottle, and I said, you know, that stuff's pretty good. He says, you want another drink? I said, hell, I can't breathe right now. I drank to fit in. I drank to be a part of. I got sworn in up in Chicago. They sent me to Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego. I went through boot camp scared. I went through boot camp homesick and lonely. I'm 17. All the guys in the platoon intimidated me. They were all men. They were all 18, 19, 20-year-old. I learned to put a facade out there and act like what I thought a man should act like. And then I struggled. I got through boot camp. They put me in the infantry at Camp Pendleton, and the Cuban crisis happened in '62, and we went down the coast in a convoy through the Panama Canal. We're going to war. I'm full of fear. I can't tell anybody about that fear. I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of being afraid. I'm ashamed of what I have an image of a macho guy, and I'm not it, and I can't tell anybody about that fear. Nothing happens in Cuba. We come back through the canal. We go to the Far East for 13 months. We unpack our gear that first night, and the guys come up and said, hey, Frank, we're going out in the Ville. You want to get drunk with us? I'd never been in the Ville. That sounds exciting to a 17-year-old. I said, yeah, I'd like to go in the Ville with you. And so we went out in the Ville that night. And we bought a Typhoon Fifth of sake, and it holds about 2 gallons. They're passing that bottle of sake around, and these guys are chug-a-lugging, and they're doing them. You've seen these guys. They're macho guys. You have them here in this meeting. They're doing the bonding ritual. They're hugging each other and shit and punching each other and headlocking, and they're really cool. And, I want to be a part of that. And, it comes around to me, and I take that bottle, and I chug-a-lug 3 or 4 big mouthfuls of it. Now, I don't know how you drank sake at the age of 17, but I'll tell you what I did. I sprayed that crap all over their shoes. I got sake out my nose, my eyes are watering, and they're laughing and pointing at me, and I hate being humiliated, and I hate that feeling. And that bottle comes around again, and I chug-lug some more, and I throw it up again, and they keep laughing at me. And I learned something that night in Okinawa. You can't let looking bad bother you if you're going to be an alcoholic. You got to be able to hang in. And, I think that's important. And, that bottle kept coming around. I kept drinking it and throwing it up, but I held enough sake down and something funny happened. And I don't know what alcohol did for you, but I'll tell you what alcohol did for me. I looked at those 5 or 6 Marines I'm drinking with, and I realized something. These guys are punks. Why am I hanging out with these sissies? I don't need these guys. And I left those guys. I went out drinking by myself. I don't need anybody. I don't need to be entertained when I'm drinking. I didn't know that back then. That's just the way it is. And so I go in another bar, and I'm in there drinking. I'm shooting pool with a Marine from a different unit. He said something that evidently offended me, so I hit him in the face with a pool cue. I seen it in the movies. It looked cool. Now, they're calling these guys called the military police. I don't want to go to the brig. I'm 17-year-old. This guy's laying there bleeding. I feel bad. I knew I shouldn't have done that. And I got that fear and that anxiety and that feeling you have when you know you're really in trouble. And I run out of that bar down through the alleys in Anoka, and I go in another bar, and I sit in there and I order a shooter, and I drink it and I order another one, and I drink it, and something funny happens. I don't worry about going to the brig anymore. I figure if the MPs walk in that bar looking for me, they'll never take me alive. We're going to fight it out right there. That's what alcohol does for me. And then I start bragging to the Marine sitting next to me about hitting that guy with a pool cue. You see, everything I do when I'm drinking, I think is cute. Everything I do when I'm drinking, I think is okay. When I'm drinking, I don't have any problems and nothing I do is wrong. Then I look down at the end of the bar and there's a Nason sitting there, and I'm a sucker for a pretty face. Women have been able to soak me for every dime I've got my entire life. It's another 12-step program, I'm going to tell you. She slid up next to me and she asked me to buy her a drink, and I'm a nice guy. And so I bought the young lady a drink. And then she started telling me this sad story about her mom that needed surgery. And it broke my heart. And so I gave her some more money. And then her and I trudged the road of happy destiny to her hooch. Now, I'd like to stand here and tell you, we had such a great time that night. She probably still remembers it to this day. It was over too quick for me to remember it. And I was embarrassed and ashamed, and I felt like a wimp and a wussy, and I hate that. And when she went to clean up, I stole my money back out of her headboard and set her house on fire. I mean, it just made sense at the time. It's one of those things that happens. Doesn't everybody do that? And then I went back to the base and I passed out, and the next morning at Reveille I come to and I'm puking up everything I'd eaten, drinking the Ville that night. I'm sicker than a dog and I can't remember anything that happened. I don't recall any of these things that morning. And the guys in the head when I'm throwing up are telling me the MPs are looking for who hit that guy. And now the fear comes back and the anxiety comes back, and I know I'm in trouble. And then they tell me about a fire in the Ville. Now, my father hadn't raised me to act that way. My father was married to my mom 50 years. I never heard him raise his voice to my mom. I don't know where those actions came from. I was ashamed of that. I did not know how I was going to make that right, and I felt a lot of guilt and shame and that desperation you feel when you know you've done something really bad. And I found out a secret that morning in Okinawa. I opened up my locker, and there's a bottle in there with a big red dot on it. And that's Akadama wine. I took that bottle of wine down and screwed the cap on it. I chugged some of it just to put the fire out, and I didn't throw it up. I drank some more of that wine and went out to formation. By the time the formation was over and I walked back in the barracks, something funny had happened. My headache's gone. My stomach had settled down. I didn't have a hangover. I felt pretty good. I went right back to that locker, got that bottle of wine out, poured some in a canteen cup, and started drinking it. 20 minutes later, I'm bragging about hitting that guy with a pool cue. I'm bragging about setting that woman's house on fire. You see, when I'm drinking, I think everything's cute. When I'm drinking, I don't take responsibility for my actions. I don't care about paying bills on time when I'm drinking. I don't care about obeying the law when I'm drinking. I don't care whose wife or girlfriend it is when I'm drinking. I don't care about being honest when I'm drinking. What I care about when I'm drinking is me. What am I going to get out of it? What can you do for me? Give me, lend me, can I have, let me borrow. I am the mighty I am. That's all I care about when I drink. I don't know about you. I wasn't out there doing charity work when I was out there drinking. I was out there doing everything I could do that would benefit me in some way. I became a morning drinker and a daily drinker at the age of 17. All my money went on booze and women in the bars, and I became a bar fighter. And I'm too light to fight and too thin to win, and I developed the technique of ambush. and I'd make a stripe, and the Marine Corps took it away from me, and because they frown on those actions, really. And then they'd restrict me to the base I was stationed on. Then they restricted me to my barracks. And if you'd ever walked up to me over and said, you know, Frank, every time you drink, you get in trouble. I could give you reason after reason after reason why alcohol played no part in the trouble I'm in. If that guy in that bar hadn't have said that to me, I wouldn't have hit him in the mouth with a bottle of beer. So it ain't my fault, it's his fault. And if the duty NCO hadn't have said, shut up and go hit the rack, I would not have smacked the duty NCO. He needs to learn how to communicate to the troops. So it's his problem, it ain't my problem. And before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I blamed everybody around me and everything for my problems but me. I blamed my wife, the kids, the job, the boss, the police department, people in the civilian. I blamed everybody until the old-timers in my home group snapped me up and said, if you want to see what the problem is, Slim, go look in that mirror. The 12 steps in that big book of Alcoholics Anonymous are made for you to work, not the people around you. Your wife don't have to work this program. Your kids don't have to work it. You have to work this program and become different. And if you don't, you'll drink again. I had to hear that in Alcoholics Anonymous. I spent 337 days in the brig in Okinawa because I beat a cab driver's face in with a rock. I perceived their meters were fixed and they were ripping us servicemen off. And so I was just getting back the money they had overcharged me. And my dad flew to Okinawa and met with a commanding general, and I was in a lot of trouble. And this was 1963, and he just begged the Marine Corps not to throw me out, and some deal was cut someplace. He paid for the guy's surgery, and he paid for his retirement. He gave the cab company some money, and by the time paperwork went through after my court-martial to get me sent back to duty, I'd spent 337 days in that brig. If you'd have told me it was behind getting money to drink on, I could have rationalized and justified why that ain't it. They sent me to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and I met a girl when I went to Illinois on leave and married her. Took her down there with me, and she wants me to stay home and be a husband. I'm a bar drinker now. I like the intelligent guys and the beautiful women in the bars. Now, I don't know how you guys would get out, but I tell you what I'd do. I'd start a fight with her and make it look like it's her fault. And then we're having a cuss fight, and we're yelling and screaming at each other. And I can't drink in a noisy place. And that'd give me the excuse to get the hell out of the house. So then I'd go out in the bars in Jacksonville and I'd drink, and some guy'd say something, I'd hit him with something. They'd call the Jacksonville police. I'd go out to another bar, and I'm sitting in there, and a guy like me has to be validated because I don't feel like a man, and I don't know what you did to validate yourself, but I have to have another woman. So I'd lock eyes with some honey in a bar, and we'd trudge off to her place and do what we got to do, and then I'm laying in bed with her sobering up, and I'm starting to think, and then you should never drink and think. That's a bad deal. And what I'm feeling are the feelings you're going to feel when you're unfaithful. And I'm feeling the feelings you're going to feel when you're a liar and a cheat. And I can't go home and look at that woman now. And so I stop and have a couple of shooters and a beer, and what my head says is, this is a guy thing. Don't worry about it. This is what guys do. It's cool. So now I can go home, and I walk in the house, and she says, where have you been? Well, I hate that question. Now I have to lie to her. I wouldn't be a liar if she hadn't asked that question. So it's not my fault, really, that I'm lying. It's her fault for asking that damn question. And now we're having a cuss fight. And now I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and my sponsor and the old-timers told me that my wife was none of my business. They told me that I have to work this program, she don't. I need to treat her the way I want to be treated. I'm not supposed to tell her how to clean the house. My sponsor told me, if you don't like how the house looks, clean the damn house yourself, but shut up about it. And never say anything to her about it. Quit walking around being critical. If you don't like how it is, you fix it. If you don't like what she cooks for dinner, cook your own dinner. And never say anything to her about it. She evidently likes what she cooked for dinner. I had to learn in Alcoholics Anonymous how to be a husband. I didn't have a clue. I had to learn to treat her the way I wanted to be treated. And then we have a kid. Now, I don't know how to treat kids. They make messes. They break things. They spill crap. They crap in their diapers. I mean, no human should do that stuff. And then I'd shake her and I'd throw her in a crib, and then the guilt and shame comes over me because I'm a bad father, and I know I'm a bad father, and the only thing that takes feelings like that away is whiskey. And then I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and what happens, I found out kids are little people. That's what kids do when they grow up. I had to learn to lower my voice in the house. I had to learn to clean my language up in the house and around women and children. My sponsor told me that women and children in meetings or any place else or out on the streets or in your home don't deserve to hear the foul language you used out in the bars. He told me it don't make you macho, it don't make you a man. He said it makes you a mental midget trying to express himself forcibly. And I had to learn in Alcoholics Anonymous I can't talk that way around people. And I hear young people today firing off the F word and everything, and they're really cool and macho when I hear it, and I really admire them. But hopefully someday they'll grow up and don't think that measures their manhood, but, you know, some are sicker than others. They got to do what they got to do. So anyway, I had to learn to clean my language up in Alcoholics Anonymous around women and children and people out in public. Then I got called into the CO's office one day and they issued me a rifle with a telescope on it and live ammunition. Sent me across the ocean out there to a place called Vietnam. And Vietnam ain't my problem, and it never has been my problem. My problem is standing in the middle of my wardrobe right now. Nothing else is my problem. I am the problem. And when I got over, I'm a sniper. I'm 67, 68. I'm up at Quai Son and Con Thien, and I'm full of fear, and I can't tell anybody about that fear, and I'm ashamed of that fear, and I don't feel like a man, and that makes me crazy. And I found out a secret in Vietnam. 151 proof rum. You put that in your canteens and you drink that stuff, baby, and you are bulletproof and invisible. Now what that allows me to do is go out on those patrols and do the things I have to do to show the other Marines what a macho, tough guy I am. And I did a lot of bad things over there to a lot of people. And I'm not proud of that. That's where alcohol allows me to go. And what alcohol did for me in Vietnam is save my sanity. That's all alcohol did. It allowed me to drink and clear my mind of that stuff and give me rationalization. And I come into Alcoholics Anonymous and I found out I can't change those things. I can't undo the bad things I've done. What I can do today is stay sober right now. I put enough nows together, I'll have a sober tonight. That's all. I try not to repeat the actions from the past. I try not to react to every thought or perceived injustice that happens to me. I try not to take things personal. I try not to do those things, and I'm not always successful at that. But today, all I got is right now, and I can't change those things. I have to try to live a better life today. Alcoholics Anonymous taught me that. I ended up getting blown up over there during the siege at Quai Son. I got wounded. I come back to the States. I go home, and then we have a son born to us while I'm over there, and my daughter's growing up, and they want my attention, and the wife wants it, and I want to go out in the bars and drink because that's where macho guys go, and we're having that cuss fight again. And I finally told her, shut up or I'll kill you. And that woman don't believe me. And I go in the closet in the bedroom, and I get the gun out I'd left home with her. And I walk back in that kitchen, and I said, if you don't shut up, I'll kill you. And she didn't believe me. And I got a daughter standing here pulling on me, telling me, don't shoot her, mommy. And I'm trying to get the safety off that gun, and it's rusted. I hit a pin at the base of the receiver, and I pushed that pin in, and it was a firing pin. And that gun went off. And that bullet went through my hand and down between my legs where my daughter was standing. And the bullet didn't hit her. And I'm a blessed man for that, because I could have accidentally shot and killed my daughter that day, because my wife ain't doing what I'm trying to tell her to do. Shortly after that, she divorced me. I couldn't believe it. I fired one shot. I shot myself. She took my... Alcohol tells me I'm a good father. I don't know what alcohol tells you. Alcohol tells me I'm a good dad. Alcohol tells me I'm a good husband. Alcohol tells me I'm a good man and everything I do is right. I don't know what alcohol does for you. I drank over her leaving. I'm a drill instructor in San Diego, and I stole from the recruits. I hazed them. I abused them. I fought in the bars down there. I started carrying a gun, and I started getting in trouble, and I'm fighting in the bars, and I had a keen alcoholic thought after 2.5 years down there. I volunteered and went back to Vietnam for a second tour. I'm back in the infantry over this time, 70, 71, and all I did is repeat my bad actions from the first time. Again, alcohol saved my sanity. I ended up getting shot up in an ambush over. I come back to the States to get out of the hospital. Marine Corps wants me to come back after lunch. I can't do that now. I have to drink. There's demons out there now that are looking for me. And so I drink to keep those demons away. I get out of the Marine Corps after 11 years. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I became a police officer in Southern California. You got a problem with that? Freeze! I love saying that. At no time did I ever use the term freeze. That is crap, and some of you know that. I don't want you to freeze. I want you to run. So when we catch you, we'll beat you. That's all. Very simple. So I never said freeze. I can't tell my partner in a police car I'm afraid of the dark and alleys because of what's in those alleys that's going to get me. Before I go to work, I drink. Drinking takes the fear away. Now what happens on the street when you scare me, I get violent. I was a violent police officer in the city I worked in. I'm not proud of that. That's just where alcohol allows me to go and where I have to go. And today, because of AA, I get to go into institutions and speak. I make my amends in there and tell them what I'm trying to be like today and what Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me, and I try to be an example. I got married again when I'm a cop. We had a kid. My wife got pregnant. I don't feel like a man. I still got to be validated, and so I started to have an affair with my partner. I had a female partner now. I don't care what your preference is, mine is female. I have a female partner. Her and I are having an affair. She found out I got my wife pregnant. She took offense to that. She shot me. What in the hell are you clapping at? See, that ain't funny. Hey, any of these, all you guys out there, look at all the women that are laughing and yucking it up over that shit. Okay? I wouldn't date them if I were you. If they own a gun and you do anything, they will shoot your ass someday. And it's all fun and games till you get shot. And then it's just fun and games with a scar. She shot me in the head. And I thought rather than get gunned down in a police car, I'd resign, and so I left the police department. I got a real estate license. If you think money, property, and prestige will fix it, if you're an alcoholic of my type, money doesn't fix it. Money doesn't take away alcoholism. It doesn't take away rage and anger and desperation. It doesn't take away lying, cheating, and stealing. Money doesn't fix anything. It just allows you to do it in a better environment. Because I made a ton of money in real estate. I bought a house, put it on a 1/4 acre on a 3-hole putting green and a swimming pool, and I paid cash for 2 brand new Cadillacs, one for me and one for my wife, and my kids wore designer clothes, and I had gold chains and pinky rings with diamonds and custom suits, and I had a Mr. T starter kit before he was ever on television. And money didn't fix it. Money didn't fix it. And at the age of 36 years old, I stood there and looked around, and everything I had worked all my life to get was gone. The house, the car, the jewelry, the clothes, the wife, the kids were gone. Everything I owned was in a cardboard box in the back seat of a stolen car. Now, that's a hell of a note for a former police officer. And I ended up homeless, ended up on the streets, ended up passing blood when I went to the bathroom. I got very sick, and a woman I had worked real estate with seen me one day, and she took me to her home, and she cleaned me up and took me to a doctor. And that doctor gave me a physical, and they let me go, and I went back out on the streets doing what I do, and when they got the results in, she found me and took me back to that doctor. And I sat in his office, and what that man told me that day, he said, "Mr. Jones, you're addicted to alcohol the way a heroin addict is to heroin. And if you don't stop drinking, you're going to die before summer gets here." He said, "You have cirrhosis of the liver, you have a hole in your throat from vomiting all the time. All the things you're going to have and be if you're living and eating, drinking, and being the way I'm being." And what I felt when he told me I was going to die is I felt relief because I'm tired. It's not easy ruining your life and everybody's life around you. It's not easy. And I stood up and I shook his hand and I thanked him. And I walked out of his office and went to a liquor store, and the money they gave me to eat lunch on, I bought a 5th of whiskey and a case of beer. And I drank as hard and as fast as I could. If it's going to kill me, I want to die. To make a long story short, my parents found out I was dying on the streets and I wouldn't take care of myself, and my parents had me committed. They had me strapped down in this hospital, and you can't get out of those. And if I could have, I would have went home and tried to talk to them. I haven't talked to my parents in almost 4 years. And they strapped me down in this hospital, and they pumped me full of vitamin B and magnesium, and helped with the withdrawals, and some of them I remember and some of them I don't. And at the end of about 9 or 10 days, they unstrapped me in that bed, threw me in a van, and took me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I don't know why. I am not an alcoholic. This is the only disease in the world that will kill you. It will take your life, and your head will tell you you don't have a problem with it, or you're too tough, too macho, too pretty, too slick. You can beat this on your own. You don't really have a problem. You had a bad break. And I walked into that meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and there was a bunch of losers there just like you. You're doing the same crap you were doing tonight. 27 years ago, you're still doing it. Everybody's hugging each other, kissing and shit, and shaking hands, and you're all smiles, and all the ladies got their hair done nice and their makeup on, and the guys are clean and looking good, well, for the most part. And I judged you. And you can't look as good as you look if you'd have lived the life I lived and been doing the things I did. I judged you. And what you guys told me was, Frank, get a cup of coffee, shut your mouth, and sit down. I thought, I'll rip your throat out. And you said, no, there's too many of us. You ain't going to rip anything. Rip a seat, dude. Shut up. 90 meetings, 90 days. Go to AA if you want to drink. Come to Alcoholics Anonymous if you want to take a drink. Go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I heard that over and over and over. And I left that meeting. They took me back to the hospital. They brought me back the next night. And I looked at you and I realized I had misjudged you. You hadn't made the money I had made. You didn't have the houses, the car, the jewelry, the clothes, the women. You didn't have anything. You're nothing. And you guys looked at me and said, Frank, get your coffee, shut up, and sit down. You're homeless. You ain't got any of that shit now. Shut up. Go to 90 meetings in 90 days. Go to AA. If you want to drink, go to AA. And I heard that over and over again. 90 meetings, 90 days, go to AA. And if you're an alcoholic of my type, what happened to me might happen to you if you don't plug into this thing called Alcoholics Anonymous. If you don't start taking this program serious, listening to chapter 5 when it's read and the 12 traditions, keeping quiet during the meeting, if you don't get yourself a sponsor. I did not say somebody to talk to about your issues. Your issues don't mean squat, okay? They'll change every 4 or 5 seconds. You have an issue with me right now, deal with it. Get a sponsor that'll get you involved in Alcoholics Anonymous in these 12 steps. Work in some type of program of rigorous honesty. Something that'll get you committed to these meetings and open up your ears. Or what happened to me might happen to you. You see, I walked out of that hospital and I stood out there and I cried. And all the things I had done all my life came down and started sitting on my chest. And I was sober as I am tonight, right now. And all the things I had done to 2 wives and 4 kids and shoplifting as a kid, and the things I did in Vietnam and when I was a cop, and all that crap's choking me out. I don't want to take a drink of alcohol. I haven't had a desire to take a drink of alcohol in over 27 years. I had a desire to commit suicide. I wanted to take my own life because I had no hope. I had no sponsor, no meetings, no commitment, no God, no nothing. What I had was me. And me is what got me there. If you don't get involved, get a sponsor and start doing these things and having respect for AA instead of thinking this is some kind of cute dating service or employment agency. What happened to me might happen to you. I came back to California, found my wife and kids up in Oregon. We moved into a garage not attached to a house, just the 2-car structure. Slept on the floor, ate government cheese and block bologna, and my kids put water on their cereal when we had cereal, and I didn't go to meetings because I'm too cool for you. I don't need a sponsor. I don't need 12 steps. I can be as hip, slick, and cool as I want to be. I can walk in here and look different and act different and try to intimidate people and try to put a macho BS attitude out there and image like I see some of them. And what happened to me could happen to you. At 6 months without a drink of alcohol and no meetings, I am driving a stolen car on the Hollywood freeway with a 45. I'm looking for work. I have to feed my family. And I'm in the fast lane on the freeway, and I'm honking at this guy to get out of my way. In my opinion, he's going too slow. And I don't know what you people up here in San Jose do. You may pull around him and wave at him, but I don't. I'm honking, and he ain't moving, and so I rear-ended him. And I chased him off the freeway, and when he stopped, I stopped. And I walked up to his car with a 45. And I stuck it in the driver's window, and I said, you ever drive that slow again, I'll kill you. Now, I didn't want a bourbon and water that day. I wanted to take that man's life. Where do you go when you get desperate, full of rage, full of anxiety, you have no hope, but you have no sponsor to call, no friends you've made in AA, you don't know about these 12 steps, you don't know about fellowship, you don't know about the meetings because you're too macho and too cool to attend? Where do you go? At 10 months without a drink of alcohol and no meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm in an office there, in Alpha Beta trying to get me some Pepsi and cigarettes. And I'm standing there with my Pepsi and cigarettes. I'm not buying my children milk. I've always been selfish. You're probably a giver when you're out there, but I'm selfish. I'm always going to get mine first. And it says 10 items or less, cash only. My head said, count that woman's items. She's got about 13 items in a 10-item line. That probably don't aggravate you serene people here in San Jose. That aggravates the hell out of me. And then I start analyzing her items. I'm a thinker. I analyze stuff. I want to know reasons. Is 12 eggs 12 items, or is it just a dozen eggs? Is 2 half-gallons of milk, is that milk, or is that 2 more items? Is 4 apples in a bag 4 items, or is it just apples in that damn bag? By the time I looked at her shit, she had about 30 items. And I'm aggravated by that, and I'm angry, and I'm ready to launch. I can't stand it. And she broke her checkbook out. And I told her, you can't write a check. The sign says cash. This is a cash-only line. And she smiled, said, I'll be through in a minute, Sonny. I said, I'm not Sonny. I'm not Sonny right now. I'm angry. And I took her eggs and milk, and I threw the shit all over Alpha Beta. Now, that'll get 4 large sheriffs called on you. I didn't want a pina colada. I wanted to rip her blue wig off. I hated her. That won't happen to you. Don't worry about it. At 13 months without a drink of alcohol and no meetings, I'm trying to interview for a job in a real estate office. And a guy walks by and said, Frank, how you doing? And I said, that's a personal question. Why are you prying into my private life? I said, I'll tell you how I'm doing. I don't want this office to hear it. And I grabbed him around the throat, jerked him on a desk. I'm choking his ass out. How do you think I'm feeling now? I had a nervous breakdown. That won't happen to you. Don't worry about it. Do it your way. And I know it's time, but I tell you, I come a long way, and you people took forever on your chinchy ass break, so deal with that. Have a speaker come up from far away and give them 30, 35 minutes. What the hell's up with that? Well, you know the way to your car. Go to it if you got to get home. Anyway, what happened was they pulled my fingers off this guy's throat, and this guy laid a card down. He was a member of my home group. It's the first time he'd ever been in that office. And he said, I know what's wrong with you. He said, but you got to go see this guy. He said, I can't help you. And they took me back to the garage I was staying in. They sent my wife and kids to his wife's house, and I sit there and I cried, and I don't remember those days at all. And they told me about them later, and then he took me to this man's office, and I sit in his office and I cried. And what that man told me that day has saved my life and my sanity up to and including tonight, because this is what he told me. He said, Frank, you ain't got a problem drinking. You ain't had a drink in over 13 months. You got a living problem, and you better find a living answer to that living problem. And he says, you'll find it in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, if you go to those meetings, there's a group of people walk down that path before you got there, fall in behind them and do the things they're doing. He didn't say bring the body and the mind will follow. That is such crap. If somebody tells you that in here and you're new, get away from them. They're trying to kill you. Your mind ain't going to follow you anywhere. I guarantee it. Your mind didn't follow you in there tonight. It's just your body sitting there. Your mind ain't coming to an AA meeting when you're new. Jesus, and he told me to come in here and sit in the front and listen. He told me to have respect for Alcoholics Anonymous. He said to get a commitment at the meetings. He said, don't go into the meeting and just suck the life out of it and leave. He said, we got enough losers that do that at all the meetings. Give something back. He said, you're not too good to pick up chairs or take trash out or wash coffee pots or sell literature or do something at the meeting to give something back. He said, give back. Don't just suck the life out of it. He said, get a higher power. And I said, I don't believe in God. He said, whoever puts that moon out at night and takes it down in the morning, pray to them. And I can do that. And I started coming into these meetings, and I sit in the front and I listened. I was told by the old timers to have respect for Alcoholics Anonymous. Keep my mouth shut during the meeting. Don't get up and wander around during the meeting. It disrupts the other newcomers because they can't concentrate on 2 things at once. And he said, we want them to stay. We don't care if you leave. So you sit there and shut up and listen. And I'm glad they gave it to me that way, because I wouldn't have stayed today if they give it the way I see some people getting it today. I wouldn't have stuck around. I'd have taken advantage of you. And then I got sober and I started doing the things you people asked me to do on how to treat my family, clean my language up, and tell my wife and kids I loved them. And I had to do those things. And, when we get sober, it ain't all wonderful and good things. When I was 9 years sober, my dad died. And I loved my dad. And I got to go back and put my 9-year medallion in his pocket before they lowered him in the ground. And he and I had a relationship because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he got to have his son back for a while. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. It ain't because I'm a good son, because I'm not. But I learned to act here in Alcoholics Anonymous like a son. And then my brother got sober in my house, and I love my brother. And he was sober 17 years, 10 months, and he got a rare disease, and he died. And I love my brother. 4 days later, my mom died. And I just came to meetings. I just talked to the people at the meetings. I get my experience, strength, and hope from you people here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't have any answers. What I do is I watch you. I watch how you treat each other. I watch how you act in meetings. And I see the flakes at the meetings, and I see the people that take AA seriously. And the flakes will be gone shortly, so they don't bother me no more. They used to make me crazy. Today, I don't really care. They ain't going to stick around. If you think that all the flakes and all the cool macho dippies that run around these meetings are going to stay, you go to your home group and you sit there and you watch, and they say, can we see the hands of the people with 30 days sober or less? And you'll see the same number of hands go up every week. Well, depending on the size of the meeting, could be 8 or 9, could be 3 or 4. But you see the same number of hands go up every week. And every week you go back to that same meeting. And that meeting don't get any bigger. Where do they go? They got all the answers. They're out there learning the answers out on the streets. They can only come in here and be cool so long, and they'll be gone. So I don't let them aggravate me no more. I ended up ending a 31-year marriage in sobriety. Nothing fantastic happened or anything bad. We grew apart, and we sat down and talked one day. We didn't even have an attorney. And I gave her the house and everything, and I took all the bills. My sponsor said, you're noble, but you're stupid. But I can pay those bills a lot easier than she can, and she's a good, decent woman, and she raised our girls. And so Alcoholics Anonymous allowed me to act like a man. And I did what was best for her, and not what's best for me. And then that daughter I almost shot that day, she's general counsel for a medical corporation in Indiana. She named her son after me, and it's not because I'm a good dad, because I'm not. It's because Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon was in that home. And we let her grow up and make her own decisions. My middle daughter's got a master's degree and teaches 5th grade, and she loves her dad today, and it's because of AA, not because of me. My youngest daughter graduated from college and was going to be a veterinarian, and talked to me one day and said, Dad, I don't want to go to school 3 or 4 more years. I'm going to take my second choice. And I said, what's that, Beck? She said, I'm going to be a police officer. I almost shit. I couldn't believe she said that. I said, I support you, whatever you... And she went to LAPD and went through the academy 32 weeks and graduated in the top 5 and did her probation at Rampart Division. And I worried about her. And I met her partner, and I said, if I ever get called to the hospital and my daughter's injured, when I get there, you better be injured also, even if it's self-inflicted. And he looked at my daughter and said, is he serious? And Beck said, oh, yeah, he is. But I have a relationship with my kids today because of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have a good life. I have a great life today, and I have a quiet head and a calm stomach. And it's not what I'm wearing, it's not what I drive, and it's not where I live. It's how I feel inside and how I feel in these meetings and how I act outside these rooms. You people have given me that. If all I got out of Alcoholics Anonymous is what I got out of it today, I'm overpaid. I woke up this morning in a clean, dry bed. And when I got here, I wasn't sleeping in a bed, and I had no clean clothes. Before I came here tonight to you people, I took a shower, shaved. I got on clean clothes. When I came to AA, I wasn't wearing clean clothes and showering and shaving. Tonight I sat down and ate dinner with a bunch of bandits from this group, and Jim and Mike and all have had a great time, and Gary, and I didn't puke it up with a lot of stomach bile behind it and alcohol. So if that's the 3 things I got out of today, I've been overpaid today. If you're new or used sitting in this meeting, you don't have to remember anything I've said because it doesn't mean anything to anybody in here. If you don't have a sponsor now that you're communicating with, you're not going to have one when I'm done. If you don't have commitments at this meeting, you're just a sucker of the life out of the meeting. You're going to just be that when I walk out of here tonight, so I really don't care. If you don't take AA seriously and have respect for it, that's your problem, that ain't mine. But if you're new or used, I think what you ought to do is pay attention tonight to that very first line that was read out of chapter 5. Because that line in chapter 5 says it all, folks, believe me. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Thanks.